Mr. Harrison had been a history teacher for nearly 40 years. Generations of students passed through his classroom. He never needed to raise his voice. When he spoke about history, it felt as if every battle, every hero, and every moment came alive. Students didn't just memorize dates, they learned to love history. Many of them said that Mr. Harrison was the reason they believed in themselves. On the day he retired, the school auditorium was filled with applause. Students, parents, and teachers stood on their feet for several minutes. He smiled, thanked everyone, and quietly walked away. He believed his greatest reward had always been seeing his students succeed. Years passed. His wife, Margaret, became seriously ill. The cost of her treatment was far beyond what their pensions could cover. At first, they sold their jewelry, then the television, then pieces of furniture. Finally, there was almost nothing left except old books, dishes, and a few personal belongings. Every Saturday morning, Mr. Harrison would quietly set up a small table at the local market. He never asked anyone for help. He simply hoped that selling a few things would be enough to pay for another week of Margaret's medication. Most people walked past him without recognizing the elderly man sitting behind the table, until one Saturday, a young man stopped in front of him. He looked carefully for several seconds. Then he smiled. "Mr. Harrison?" The old teacher slowly looked up. His face brightened. "Michael." He remembered him immediately. Michael had been one of his students almost 20 years earlier. Michael couldn't believe what he was seeing. The teacher who had inspired hundreds of young people was now selling old plates and books just to buy medicine for his wife. He quietly asked, "Why are you here?" Mr. Harrison smiled gently. "Margaret needs treatment. As long as we still have something left to sell, we'll manage." There was no anger in his voice, no self-pity, only dignity. Before leaving, Michael discreetly took a few photos. That evening, he created an online group. He named it, "For the Teacher Who Never Gave Up on Us." He shared the photos. Within hours, hundreds of former classmates joined. One had become a doctor, another was a lawyer, an engineer, a firefighter, a business owner, a teacher. One by one, they all wrote the same sentence: "I am who I am today because of Mr. Harrison." But they didn't want to simply send him money. They wanted to give something back to the man who had spent his life giving to others. Together, they organized a surprise. They rented the school's auditorium. The principal invited Mr. Harrison, telling him the school was celebrating an important anniversary and wanted to honor retired teachers. He had no idea what was waiting for him. The moment he walked through the doors, the entire auditorium stood up. Hundreds of former students filled the room. The applause seemed endless. Mr. Harrison froze, his eyes filled with tears. The principal stepped onto the stage. "For 40 years, you taught us that history is written by people who never give up. Today, we're here to show you that your students never forgot your lessons." Then, one by one, former students came onto the stage. A surgeon, a firefighter, a judge, a pilot, a teacher. Each of them shared a memory. "You were the first person who believed in me. You convinced me not to quit school. You changed my life." By the end, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Finally, Michael walked onto the stage carrying a small folder. He handed it to Mr. Harrison. Inside was a letter. It explained that his former students had raised enough money to cover Margaret's medical treatment and to ensure that Neither of them would ever have to sell another possession again. Mr. Harrison held the letter with trembling hands. For several moments he couldn't speak. Then, through tears, he looked at the people sitting before him. His students, his family, his legacy. With a trembling voice, he said, "All my life, I believed I was teaching you." He paused, trying to hold back his tears. "Today, you've taught me the greatest lesson of all." The audience stood once again. The applause echoed through the auditorium, and in that moment, Mr. Harrison realized something he had never expected. The greatest reward a teacher can ever receive is not a medal, not money, not recognition. It is knowing that the kindness, patience, and love he gave to his students lived on inside every life they touched. Sometimes the lessons we teach return to us years later in ways we could never imagine.